In the future year of 1987, NASA astronaut Buck Rogers tested his space shuttle Ranger 3. His flight was supposed to last only 5 months, but when a meteor storm damages his ship, he is frozen solid, and the Ranger 3 is cast into an orbit which returns him to Earth. The only problem is, it's over 500 years later. When Buck awakens, he has to adjust to life in the 25th century. This series ran for 2 seasons between September 1979 and April 1981, and it all began with a movie that was originally made to be the television pilot, but Universal Pictures opted to release it in theaters several months before the show was to air. The sci-fi series that was based on the popular comic strip from the 1930s starred a charming Gil Girard as Buck, the beautiful Erin Gray as Wilma Deering, and a host of others that make Buck Rogers in the 25th century an unforgettable show. Henry Silva played Kane in the 2-hour pilot episode Awakening, which was released theatrically. However, Silva was not available to take part in the weekly TV series, and so Michael Ansara was cast in the role of Kane for subsequent episodes. The change had a subtle effect on Kane's relationship with Princess Ardala. In Awakening, there's a flirtatious quality to some of Ardala's banter with Kane. Additionally, Kane is also more forceful with Ardala in the pilot episode. An example of this is when he insists that she perform her duties as a draconian princess. The dynamic between the characters changed when Ansara assumed the role, and the relationship became more businesslike. This is notable in the 17th episode, where Ardala repeatedly expresses doubt about Kane's zygote robot duplicates of Buck Rogers, and at one point she angrily orders Kane to sit down. Among the backstory given to Kane that did not appear on screen was a mention that he was a former student of Dr. Hewer, who defected to the Draconians. Also, to explain the drastic differences between Henry Silva and Michael Ansara's separate portrayals of Kane, the novelizations established Silva's Kane as a younger brother of Ansara's Kane. This would explain why Silva's Kane behaved in a more boorish and manipulative manner toward Ardala, while Ansara's Kane was more honorable and duty-bound, yet still showing no more respect for Ardala than his job required. The producers originally envisioned a younger actor to play Buck Rogers, somebody around the age of 25. However, Gil Girard, who was 35 at the time, gave a very impressive audition to the production team, so it was decided to base the character around the actor, and not the actor around the character. He was subsequently rewritten to make Buck Rogers slightly older than the original comics had established. The series was revamped for the 2nd season to give it a more serious tone, a move largely pushed by Gil Girard. Despite the series achieving moderately good ratings during the 1st season, Girard didn't like the tongue-in-cheek tone and frequently clashed with producers over content. Girard was so disappointed that in an interview with Starlog magazine, he confessed he hoped the series would be canceled after the 1st season. Gil Girard's waistline was a concern for producers on a weekly basis. He was warned about feasting on the company's open all-day craft service buffet. Buck Rogers' white skin-tight jumpsuit plagued the costume department, trying to make Girard look slimmer. Girard was even given the nickname the White Polish Sausage. Before Erin Gray agreed to return to play the role of Colonel Wilma Deering from the movie, Waneen Clay was considered to play the role. In the episode Vegas in Space, she guest starred as Major Marla Landers, a character very similar to Wilma Deering. Erin Gray was asked to dye her hair blonde for the role of Colonel Deering. However, as the 1st season progresses, her blonde hair begins to fade to her natural brunette color. In the 2nd season, she was allowed to have completely brunette hair. Originally, Tweaky was just going to make unintelligible electronic noises, the bitty sound, and Dr. Theopolis was to act as his translator. This was deemed to be too similar to R2-D2 and C-3PO from Star Wars, and so Tweaky was given a voice of his own. Because of illness, Mel Blanc was briefly replaced by Bob Elia as the voice of Twiki for the first 5 episodes of the second season. After recovering, Blanc returned to the role for the rest of the series. The series quickly gathered a small, intensely devoted fan base. On occasion, teenage girls tried to enter the studio grounds to meet Gil Girard. One studio employee reported that a teen offered him $20 if he would sneak her into the studio in the trunk of his car. He refused. Erin Gray once had an admirer come to the studio entrance with a bouquet of roses and a box of chocolates. Even Felix Sela, who was inside the Twiki robot costume, had a few devoted female fans try to come into the studio to see him on set. The broadcast of the second season was delayed because of an actor strike. During that strike, the series was retooled to make it more like Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. The first season was based on Earth, and the second was based aboard a deep space exploration vessel. The primary villains in the first season, the Draconians, are never seen in the second season, and neither is Buck's friend and mentor, Dr. Elias Hewer. And Hawk, a Mr. Spock-type character, is added as Buck's sidekick. The Earth starfighter seen on the series was designed by Ralph McQuarrie and was actually one of his original designs for the Colonel Viper on Battlestar Galactica. When Galactica producers went with another design for the Viper, this design resurfaced on Buck Rogers as the starfighter. Actor Kurt Russell was producer Glenn Larson's first choice to play the lead role. Russell, who by then had already done a lot of television, said he was not interested because he was concentrating on starting a movie career, especially after coming agonizingly close to landing the role of Han Solo in Star Wars, before ultimately losing out to Harrison Ford. Erin Gray started her career in modeling. She entered her first contest and won a modeling assignment in St. Louis when she was just 14 years old. Commercials followed in Los Angeles, and by 1975, she was one of the nation's top TV models, earning over $100,000 a year. She then landed her first starring role on the miniseries Evening in Byzantium. This led her to give up modeling altogether, and she was given a 7-year contract with Universal Studios, which led directly to her taking the role of Colonel Wilma Deering in Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Her trim, shapely figure, highlighted by tight one-piece spandex jumpsuits, was popular with the show's predominantly young male audience, and she was fully aware of how her tight uniform was perceived and the sex appeal it added to the series. Wilma Deering was one of the early examples of a strong female lead on a sci-fi series, and the character has remained a favorite for many, despite the series only lasting 2 seasons. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and consider subscribing and sharing Recollection Road Entertainment with someone you know. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this playlist. As always, thank you so much for watching.